of toilets. I've been talking just now about privacy, and it's interesting that one of the euphemisms for a toilet in England is a privy, a private place. And indeed, the euphemisms round this act, which all humans have to do more or less daily, of going to the toilet, are fascinating. The little boy's room, the rest room, and so on and so on. Masses of euphemisms which are class-based, toilet and latrine and so on, are you have to learn the language of toilets and how to refer to it in company decently without offending people. And so the language around toilets and the behavior around toilets is a fascinating study for anthropologists. I think I became interested in it mainly as an anthropologist because I saw its importance, but certainly my own personal career and life, where as an infant in India I had a lot of toilet trouble. I had acidosis and I had dysentery, serious dysentery. So controlling my bowels was difficult, and this continued through my school years and was quite traumatic at a boarding school, not being able to control your bowels properly. And then at my public school we had still toilets for the boys in the backyard, out in more or less in the rain, but certainly without doors. So I spent a lot of time at that school trying to escape to a private place, either up in the school buildings or out on the moors, and suffered from very severe congestion of my bowels as a result of that. And some people would laughingly suggest, there's a book called Life Against Death, in which it's argued that the Puritan complex about obsessive saving and storing of wealth is somehow related to, in a Freudian way, to compulsive saving of your inner wealth. And there are others who suggest that Martin Luther's break with the Catholic Church was partly fueled by his constipation. Whatever the reason, it was an important subject for me personally for some years, but when I became an anthropologist, I began to see, when I went to Nepal, I went through the same sort of trauma of having to go miles to find a private place to go to the toilet because there weren't house toilets on the whole. And it was really when I studied the comparison between Japan and England in a book on the Savage Wars of Peace, and I wrote a whole chapter on toilets and body soil, night soil as it's euphemistically called, which saw the different treatments in England at my college, King's College. It was the place where the man who discovered the water closet was Sir John Harrington, was educated in the 16th century. So it's associated with the great British invention of flushing toilet. And that was the solution in Britain, flush it all away. The solution I found in Japan and then in China and in much of East Asia was the opposite, which was to save all body effluents very, very carefully, because they were very good manure. If you could clean them of dangerous substances, then you could put them on the fields. And so much Japanese and Chinese agriculture depended on toilets. And even when we went to China and went to remote areas, we'd see little shacks beside the road, and I realized that these were for travelers to stop and deposit their bodily effluents in there, and then they would be useful on the fields. And so the patterns of disease, the patterns of agriculture, much of the important activities of different parts of the world depend on how toilets are used. And so I have a small shelf, one of which is a book called by Charles Sale called The Specialist, which was a banned book when I was at public school, but fortunately they put the banned books in the sick room, so you had plenty of time to read them when you were sick. So I recommend the specialist to you. Bye.